Hi class, happy Labor Day weekend. I hope it's okay that we didn't do the live chat this week or this weekend. And I hope that this provides some insight for all of you. And if you have questions that you want to ask me, you can ask me next week in the live chat. That's optional, it's not mandatory. And always feel free if you have questions in the moment to contact me. You can call me or you can email me. If we were going through this today, this would be the agenda just to highlight whatever main topics that you guys are interested in that we've covered to date, as well as to talk again about the portfolio project. Um, I will follow the same outline when we again talk next week for those of you that want to log on. And again, one more time, it's not optional. I mean, it's I hope everything's going well, that the concepts themselves are clear. I'm open to any suggestions any of you make around elements in the class or about the class that you think would help improve it. From my standpoint, I would emphasize what I announced or stated in one of the more recent announcements. That is, some of you, and this is a big class, have gotten a little behind on your assignments, and I'm very flexible on it actually, until like I said, about week 6, and then I have to get more hard nosed because they just come in masses. And actually, looking back on it, September in this particular term is typically the worst, I suppose, because some people, I'm just guessing, are into summer mode, and they're trying to take vacations with their family while still taking classes, and it's just hard to stay up. But the problem is, I have a brick and mortar job teaching, and this semester ends, or this term ends, it's not a semester, this quarter ends just about the same time I start my in-class ones, and I'm just scrambling when or if students start giving me a critical assignments number 1 in week 7 and 8. I've had students just start submitting them all at once, and that just, I'd like to be flexible, but I simply can't do it. So we got to stick by the rules. So I'm going to briefly run through this and tell you what I look for in the plan. So this is in your Module 8, this outline for your final project. And I strongly recommend that you organize and structure your paper so it follows this outline. It makes it a lot easier to read it and to grade it. And if you have these headers and subheaders, I will strongly appreciate it. And beyond that, it really helps you if you use it, in structuring your paper and having a flow of thought that's articulated in exactly how your information or content is presented. So the executive summary is, in any marketing plan, not so much in this paper, but in reality, the executive summary is often the only section that like a venture capitalist or a banker or whomever will read. And so I would suggest that it be the last thing that you write rather than the first thing, because it has to succinctly kind of be a collage of all the most germane and relevant factors within your plan. So you want to say clearly fairly clearly what your business concept is, your business model, which is how you make your money, and you might reiterate that in the company overview, but you want to say it in really succinctly again in your executive summary. Who your target market is, why that target market is exceptionally good, how much money you think you're going to make, or how much money you think you're going to expend in setting up your business concept, and normally just a number about what your expenses are going to be, what your income is going to be through, say, a 5-year period, and then that's it, really. It's really just a collection of all the most relevant and germane factoids that you will subsequently note and explain in detail through the rest of these sections. The company overview, again, you can talk about the location, how and where it's going to be operated, but again, you want to clearly add any detail that you think you might need to, as far as what exactly the business is and what your business model is. And business model, again, being how you make your money. So you might say, we are a business. I'm going to go off the subscription razor blade one. Forget the name off the top of my head, but dollar something. And you would say, we are going to sell razor blades through and deliver them through the mail or via FedEx or UPS. It's a subscription model, so people are paying monthly and receiving a certain number of blades per month, whatever. So you tell what the business is, and again, you tell what the business model is. In that particular instance, you're on a subscription level. If you're selling software and downloading software that and it's paid for up on purchase, then that's your business model. Situation analysis, that's a SWOT analysis. This is where I suggest, if you're going to write it out, that you use subheaders: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. But the best way to present a SWOT analysis is in a figure with 4 quadrants: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. That particular item lends itself to a figure. It's better than for whatever you do, don't write it out in one long paragraph. Put them all in one paragraph. Because you want to make your paper reader friendly and reference friendly. And so if I ask myself as a reader, now what did they say about what the strengths were, I don't have to read a whole section to find what they are. I can just go back and see them in that quadrant of the figure that has strengths. That's how I suggest you do it. Competitive analysis, you're just comparing yourself to, it can be a chart, or you can briefly explain who your competitors are and how your product in brief differentiates from the competition. Now, this identify objective and goals, there's a difference in my mind as far as how I was taught it and how I have always addressed it in marketing plans. There's a difference between goals and objectives. And goals are broad statements like, we want to be one of the top 3 real estate companies in our region. That's a goal. And goals, are general. They're motivating. But good objectives are always quantified. So you would say the goal is to be the top, one of the top 3 real estate companies in the region, and then your objectives could be reflected in a number of different market metrics, like we want to increase sales by X dollars, we want to increase sales by X percent, we want the dollar figure to be X in year 1, X in year 2, X by year 5. If you're a real estate company, you could also reflect it in terms of, we want 50% of our sales to be in listings and 50% to be in sales. So those are all objectives, and again, a good objective is quantified. Then what you ultimately get to later on in your marketing strategy are actual tactics on how you're going to do that. Like, you're going to hire more salespeople, and you're going to run ads, and you're going to use social media and that sort of thing. Those are how you actualize your objectives. So the STDP, this is how you're defining your target markets, your segments and target markets, and then how do you position yourself with the competition. So sticking with the real estate example, you could say our 2 broad target markets are residential and commercial, although that's still pretty broad. So you could say high-end residential or mid-residential, define it by dollars, you know, the value of range of the homes that you're targeting. You can say something about who your competitors are around that, and how you're going to position yourself in the marketplace. Again, you could position yourself in a number of different ways, with brand, by price. You could say we're doing 5% commissions instead of 6% commissions. You could be by locations. There's a number of different ways that you can position yourself relative to your competitors. And that flows right into marketing strategy and positioning. You know, how the marketing strategy is all about how you manipulate the marketing mix to promote yourself. So it's product, price, place, promotion, and you could say that you're a commercial broker or a residential broker, or you're something, a combination of those. That the extent to that if that makes sense, depends a lot on how big your market is. Having been in that industry, I can tell you that I think there's a big difference in larger markets in particular, or mid-sized markets as well, between a company that focuses on residential and a company that focuses on commercial. So think about what your product is, how you're going to price it, where you're going to be, and then how you're going to actually promote it, by building your sales staff, by advertising, and all that. As far as positioning, it's a little bit redundant, but you just want to articulate. They ask you to create a perceptual map, a positioning map, at least one, and a lot of students just kind of blow that off. So that's a requirement, and that knocks you down quite a bit. So make sure that you include that. If you don't include it, it's both I count it as both a requirement error as well as a content and analysis error. So you get dinged in 3 different places. Not substantially in each place, but you get dinged in each place. Financial projections, this is another one rather, that students kind of blow off. And you want to make sure that you do what they tell you to. And normally, a 3-year table is fine, or just some 3-year estimates. It's better if you put them in a table, but it doesn't require it here, so that's fine. But make some substantive statements about how you expect or what you expect your incomes to be, your financial projections, as well as weighted against your expenses. Implementation plan. Identify specific tactics. That's what I mentioned earlier that will be taken to. So that might be you're going back to the real estate. You might hire 10 new salespeople, put them through training. You might send out flyers, so on and so forth. And technology, that's relevant to the extent that as defined by your business type. And evaluation and control metrics, that goes back to the objectives. So if you say you're going to increase sales by X% or X dollars, revenues by X dollars, commissions by X dollars, number of new customers, whatever, those become your control metrics. And the extent to which you achieve those is what you use to determine whether or not your product or your marketing mix is making sense. Where are your successes coming from in your marketing mix efforts or applications? And then a conclusion is a conclusion, just a paragraph that you say, I think this is viable. You could also say, I've gone through this analysis and I've concluded I don't want to do it. That's not. So that's it. If you have any questions, again, you can ask me between now and next week, anytime actually, through email or call me. Otherwise, I will have a Zoom session next week. Again, hope you all had a great weekend.